All right, welcome everyone to Parashat Miketz, another amazing week's Parasha. We got less than 45 minutes and a lot of juicy information to go through. So, last week's Parasha ended by Yeshev. The whole thing was about Yosef. He's in jail, and there's the butler and the baker, and there's the dreams, and he interprets it. And pretty much he tells them, in 3 days, one of you guys are going to be killed, one of you guys are going to be freed. Ends up being that the butler is freed, the baker is killed, and he tells the butler, when you are saved, don't forget me. And that's how pretty much the last week's parsha ends. And now we finally go to this whole story of Miketz. Miketz, the word Miketz, which the parsha means, in the end. And the pasuk is, Vahi Miketz shnatam yamim ufaro cholem. And it was at the end of 2 years. What 2 years is it referring to? Yosef, this was the last 2 years of Yosef being in jail. So it was at the end of 2 years that Yosef was thrown in jail. Or the last 2 years of his 12 years in jail, that Paro had a dream. So at this point, Yosef is now 30 years old. So remember, we started last week's parsha. Yosef was just a young guy. He's a teenager. He was 18. He got thrown in jail. 12 years in jail. He's 30 years old now. So now he's had a lot of time to mature. His father Yaakov is 120, and his grandfather Yitzchak is at this point 180. And Chazal tells us it was about this time that the grandfather Yitzchak passed away. But let's get back to it. So pretty much, Paro has this big dream. And the word Miketz means at this specifically time, this was when Hashem determined that this is when he's going to become exactly this moment. It happened that he's going to come out. And why 2 years? There's a Chazal that says, very interesting, Yosef was supposed to be in jail really for 10 years. But whenever he told the Sar HaMashkim, the butler, he says, don't forget about me, think about me. On Yosef's level, the great guy that he was, he should have had emunah to say, I don't need this guy to remember me. God is taking care of me this whole journey. I was thrown in a pit. Everything that's happened, God is with me. He should have trusted that God will run the show for him and that he doesn't need to rely on a human being to save him. The fact that he didn't showed a lack of emunah, and therefore, Chazal tells us he got, instead of 10 years in jail, he got 12 years, an extra 2 years. So that's why the first pasuk of this parsha says at the end of 2 years. So after he served these 2 years, finally this moment comes. Now is the time. So what happens? Paro has this very weird dream. The dream is, Paro was standing in his dream on top of the Nile River. And for those who know anything about Egyptian culture, the Nile was like the biggest thing. It was like their economic, source of money, income. It was like some people served it. They looked at it as like a very kind of holy water. It was like in some way it was their god. Some people worshiped the Nile. So Paro is imagining himself standing over the Nile. In some way, he's imagining himself being like the god over the ocean, over this Nile, over this river. So he himself is above what people serve. And what he says is, Sheva parot yafot mareh, 7 beautiful looking cows, the Sheva parot raot mareh, and 7 cows that are not so good looking. And then pretty much what happens is that the ugly cows, the skinny, ugly cows eat the beautiful cows. Very weird dream. And the Kli Yakar says that the fact that the thin cows eat the fatter, the more beautiful cows, is a reference for the future. That when the famine occurs, and we see Yosef interpreting it, it's that the famine will be so bad that people won't remember the good days when everything was going well. So that's why is that the ugly cows eat the skinny cows. The ugly cows eat the beautiful cows, and the skinny cows don't even become bigger. Very weird dream, but whatever. He has one dream. He kind of goes back to sleep. He's like, it was just a dream, whatever. And then the Pasuk says he has a second dream on the same night. 7 full ears of grain swallowed 7 thin ones. So now it's like a grain. There's the wheat stalks. There's 7, good-looking, better-looking ones that eat kind of the thin ones, eat the bigger ones. Very kind of confusing. And he wakes up and he's like distraught. He says 2 dreams back to back. I don't know what these are. What is this referring to? And what happens is that how we ended last week's parsha was Yosef was saying to the butler, don't forget me. One day when you're out and you're free and you're back in Paro's palace, don't forget me. Try to get me out. Give me Monopoly, free prison, get out of prison card. Remember me and try to get me out. Repeat the favor. I give you this dream, interpret it, you get me back. So Paro goes to all his people, and nobody can interpret the dream the way that Paro wants. He's kind of upset. He's like, all of you guys are wrong. You guys are trying to interpret it like this. Your interpretations are wrong. And finally, it says that the butler remembers. Finally, it came to him. He remembered that there was this occurrence several years ago. He was in jail, and Yosef interpreted the dreams, and he was so accurate. And he tells Paro, hey, there's this person. This is your guy. If you want someone to interpret your dreams, go find him and see what's going to happen. So what happens is that this is like one of like the sources of anti-Semitism from the beginning. When he tells Paro, the Midrash says that he's a little bit afraid. He's afraid that maybe this guy Yosef in jail is not going to come, and he's going to take power, and he's going to become the big guy in charge. So he refers to him as, there was a young Hebrew slave in prison. He could have said, there was a guy, there was someone, in jail that can interpret dreams, but he kind of says words about Yosef in a degrading way. And the commentaries say that look at the other nations of the world, our haters. We have a lot of haters today. People talk about Candace, Tucker, everyone's blood pressure goes up. There's a lot of haters. But even the haters, when they want to try to do something nice for us, it's always kind of like on the outside, there's still something bitter inside of it. So this guy's trying to repay a favor to Yosef for what Yosef did for him, and still he can't just do the favor. He has to kind of say it in a bitter way. So every word that he says, it means a lot. The fact he was a young Hebrew slave. Young, meaning this guy's immature. Don't expect him to be some great mature person. So he refers to him to Yosef as young. Number two, he refers to him as a Hebrew. So Hebrews were foreigners. So he's saying a foreigner, in some worlds you look at an immigrant or someone who's second-class citizen. So he's not going to be anything special, but if you want, you can go ask him. Maybe he can interpret your dreams, but at the end of the day, he's a foreigner. And number three, refers to him as a slave. In Egypt, there was a rule that doesn't matter what it was, is that a slave cannot become a ruler. So it doesn't matter, today we say, you build your way up, you kind of go up and you could be the nobody in a big company, and then you can work your way up and be CEO. In those days in Egypt, it was if you were a slave, that's it. So he's saying these things to say go to him, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be anything great. Paro, he's desperate. He wants someone to interpret the dreams. So Yosef is rushed from the pit to the palace. And it says, they rushed him from the pit. It's interesting. They made him shave. They changed his clothes. Imagine some guy who's been in jail, has a big beard, looks all messed up, and they really kind of make him look very classy, taking him to Paro. Some say it's kavod malchut. It doesn't matter, even if it's a non-Jewish. By the way, today there's a halacha that says that if you see Trump or Obama, it doesn't matter if you love them, don't love them. There's actually a bracha to say because they're someone of high noble, high power. That same thing was true then. It doesn't matter if it's a Paro that not an evil person. When a person sees a person of high stature, it's expected, even from a Jew, to kind of give respect to that person. We see that today, and we see this, thousands of years ago. And that's a very phenomenal idea. Yosef is in jail for 12 years. Imagine a day being stuck in your house, 2 days, 3 days, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's going crazy. And then all of a sudden, it's not okay, let's bring him out. It's happens rush, immediate, right now, go bring him, get him out. And within a second, everything flips so much. Chazal say this is a big idea in Judaism. I don't know if you guys ever heard this word, but it says Yeshuat Hashem ki eref ayin. The salvation of Hashem, when Hashem wants to do something big, save someone, it comes in a blink of an eye. In a moment, a person could go from nothing to get everything. I'll give examples. A person has been dating for 10 years. And I had friends like this. They dated everybody, they went through it, they were burnt out, and in some way they threw in the towel and they said, you know what, I probably just not destined to get married. And they kind of gave up. And then out of nowhere, boom, it just happened to be they went to a wedding and this girl wasn't planning to go to the wedding, and they went, and in a moment they met each other, the dating thing happens, and this guy was crying in his bed 3 months ago, and now 3 months later, he's walking down the aisle. I mean, in a blink of an eye, God could take anyone. Or chas v'shalom, people have sicknesses. In the community we've heard. I remember there was someone in our community who was during COVID, he was in the ICU, the whole community was praying for him, all the men got together. I remember they're in Yachad doing all-nighter learnings for him, and it was people would speak to the family, yeah, it's not looking good, it's not looking good. And all of a sudden, within a week, 2 weeks, I remember he came home from the hospital, people were marched around, maybe some of you guys were there, marched around Circle Park, clapping, dancing for him, just A week ago, nobody knew where he's going to be. And all of a sudden, in a moment, this guy's walking around town. He's doing well. He was in the ICU on a ventilator, and now he's walking around. In a blink of an eye, God could take you from here to here and from here to there. So same thing happened with Yosef. 12 years, nothing happened, nothing changed, no one saved him. All of a sudden, it says, they ran, like, get this guy out. And not just like bring him out, like go from like the pit, from like literally the pit to the jail, to like now coming to Paro, like the most powerful person's house, and being very powerful there. And we move on to the second aliyah, and the second aliyah, very interesting, is that Yosef now comes, he's brought out, and Paro is very distraught. So he starts telling, like, Yosef, I heard that you have this very powerful ability, you can interpret dreams, and listen to Yosef's response. Vayomer Paro el Yosef, chalom chalamti v'ani paterto, I have dreamt a dream, maybe you can interpret it. And Yosef's immediate correction. He says, Vayan Yosef el Paro lemor, Yosef said to Paro, Biladai Elokim yaneh et shalom Paro. Yosef answered Paro saying, it is not me. Don't think that I have some special magical powers. I'm nobody. God will answer Paro's peace. Like, he'll give you the peace of mind that you want. He'll answer your questions. So, like, imagine you're talking to like Paro, who like serves idols, has no like understanding of what God is, and he's already not afraid to say, "Don't worry, God is going to take care of this." Like, you just trust this. You just trust there's a higher ability. He doesn't take any power. He's not saying this is his time to shine. He could say like, "Oh yeah, like bring it on. Like whatever dream you got, this is my expertise. I can do whatever you want." He doesn't say that. He's like, "Don't worry. There's God. He's going to help me interpret your dreams." So, so pretty much he does that. Paro goes through the story. He even gets more emotional, gives more details, and he says the whole thing again. And Yosef starts to interpret the dream, and he pretty much says the 7 good cows, like the good-looking cows, are the 7 good years. So there's going to be 7 years in Egypt where there's going to be like tons of food. Like Egypt is going to do very well. You guys are going to make a lot of money. And then what happens is that after that, the 7 bad cows represent the 7 years of famine. So the 7 years are going to end, and right away, and like without like even like a pause, it's all of a sudden going to go from amazing to horrible. 7 years of famine. There's going to be no food in Egypt. Things are going to get really bad. And he starts to give advice, and he starts to say, what you should do is during the 7 years, you should store things away, put things in the storage, and protect and do things. So pretty much during those years, people will have what to eat. So at the end of the day, Paro was kind of like impressed. He's like, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. And he pretty much goes ahead and he says something, and he says, go find someone, Yosef, he says, go find someone that you trust to be in charge, to like set up like where you're going to store the foods, get like a minister. And the Chazal say that at the end of the day, he, in his own mind, he had himself in mind. Like he was thinking like, yeah, if you have anyone in mind, but he's not going to say pick me, like choose me, make me the person you have. It's like, yeah, like probably a good idea for you is like right now, like start planning ahead. Go find someone to run and make storage houses. He also, another idea that Yosef gave is, it says, V'chimesh ta'aretz Mitzrayim, which means like collect a fifth of the produce. Chimesh is like a fifth. So he was saying during the good years when people are making money and are doing really well, tax them. Not just 10%, 20%. And start already like realizing that like you shouldn't just live like without control during these first 7 years. You should prepare that for the future. He's giving all this advice, but he says, but you go pick whoever you want. And Paro right here realizes like, look, this guy looks humble. He's not even taking credit. He says everything is God, not me. Everything he says makes sense. So Paro says, can we find anybody like this man who has the spirit of God? So this was a big deal. For the first time in probably Egypt's entire history, you had a pagan king referring to God, crediting Hashem. He's saying, can anybody have the spirit of God in him like Yosef does? So it was a huge statement. So you could see from here that Paro himself is really believing that there's something really special. So much so that now it moves on to this whole episode where Paro makes Yosef pretty much second in command. He says, you shall be over my house. Only the throne will be greater than you. Meaning, Paro saying, I'll be the most powerful person. After me, it's you. So imagine this guy was in jail moments ago. And now all of a sudden, Paro's in some way blindly saying, everything is in your hands. You're going to control the storage houses. You're going to continue to control the wealth. Everything is in your hands. And you can imagine there would be a lot of pushback. people would be like, this guy was in jail, this guy's a Hebrew, this guy was a slave, and now you want to make him. People would fight against, they would rebel. They wouldn't listen to a word Yosef said. So Paro has to find a way to make this like accepted within the entire world. So what he does is he goes to extremes to crown Yosef in front of everybody. So number one, he's publicly crowned. It says Paro removed his ring, okay, dressed him in linen and paraded him. That's the pasuk. Vayasar Paro et tabato. He removed his ring. Vayirchov oto b'markabat hamishneh. He pretty much dressed him in linen and took him around the whole entire town. So the ring symbolized the fact that now he has legal authority. Rambam says linen, the clothes that he put on him, was now I'm royal. And the public display was in order to prevent people from coming back and saying, like, who's this guy coming in? Like, let him go around town with the clothes, on the chariots, the whole crazy ceremony, and walking around. So very interesting point. Yosef has all this honor. And again, another very powerful idea we can all learn from Yosef. He's dressed in, he's now the most powerful person. This is his time to let his ego fly in the air and be, very haughty, be very proud of himself and start becoming very egotistical. But he says something very interesting during this time when he's getting all this attention. He says, blessed is he who lifts the needy from the dust. Just like, he was in the dust, he was in the jail. Happy is the man who puts his faith in you. So literally at the time of him shining, he gives all the credit to God, saying, God, everything is you. And I'll tell you why this is very interesting. Because in human nature is, and I know this I've seen this so commonly in our community and around the world and in my own life, is that when a person is in desperate need, they need something from God, that's when they turn to God. Like, someone loses a family member, someone has a family member that's sick, someone goes through a challenge, they're like, okay, now I'm gonna start going to Mincha Arvit, now I'm gonna start praying to God, now I'm gonna start keeping Shabbat, keeping kosher. But then when they're doing well, they're like, I don't need God. Like, I have everything. Like that's when they're least religious. You would think it's the opposite. God is giving you stuff, you're going to start thinking, appreciating, giving more. But unfortunately, people only wake up when they don't have what they need. So a very common thing. It's actually in Parashat Ekev, the pasuk says, V'ram levavcha b'shechachta Hashem Elokecha. Hashem warns the Jewish people and he says, one day you're going to become haughty, you're going to become very rich and become haughty, you're going to build houses for yourselves, and you're going to forget me. You build houses, you become wealthy, you forget me. When you're bad and you don't have money, you don't forget God because you need God. You're praying to God. When someone in your family is sick, you don't forget God. So what the lesson from about Yosef is that when he was thrown in the pit and it was dark and there were snakes and scorpions, he kept his emunah on God. God is running the show. When he was in jail for 12 years and in a dark hole, he could have had a million questions like, why? Like, why did my brothers have to do this? What did I do wrong? He could have had all these questions to God, but Chazal tells us he stepped strong. When he was in the house of Potiphar, with Potiphar's wife, we spoke about it last week, he had this big test. He trusted in God. He says, how can I sin against God? So even when he's in the lowest places, he believes in God. And also when he gets to the highest places, when he's the second most powerful person, they're ranked, running around, town, he still remembers God. A big lesson for us in our lives is, don't forget. Like my rabbi told me this in yeshiva, and I would recommend this for everyone here. Whenever you get to Modim, every single day in Shemon Esrei, take 20 seconds, think about something you're grateful for, and say thank you. And then bow down and say Modim. Because Modim is the whole section of thank you, Hashem. And the reason is that if you do this, you train yourself to be grateful for what you have, you end up being happier, and you don't have to wait until something goes wrong in your life to feel close to God. You always are constantly thanking God for all the good that you have. So long story short, Yosef has this whole thing. Yosef goes around and he even gets a new name. But Chazal say he got a new name, but he kept his soul. What does that mean? It means that Paro came and he named him Safnat Paneach. Rashi explains that this name, what it really meant, this new name of Safnat Paneach, is revealer of hidden things. So Paro was like, this guy, Yosef, interpreted this very mystery for me. So he names him revealer of hidden things. But unfortunately, what Paro was also trying to do is trying to give him like an Egyptian name, and a new name was also kind of a new identity. He was trying to get him like warped into like Egyptian society. Not only that, he gives him a wife too, from Egypt. But what happened is that even though all these, Paro was trying to assimilate Yosef, trying to make him like one of them, no longer look like a Hebrew, a foreigner, internally, Chazal tells us that he never stopped identifying as Yosef ben Yaakov. I'm Yosef, my father is Yaakov, I'm one of the 12 tribes. I'm not an Egyptian. So he never really assimilated. And again, this whole episode again, Yosef gets married, some girl named Osnat. Apparently, some people say that she had Jewish roots. She was from the family of Yaakov. She was sent to Egypt too. She was high in the ranks there. So she wasn't any random woman. She was of high nobility. And Paro was like trying to say like, you're one of us now. I'm going to give you a very noble wife. Pretty much Chazal say that Yosef did not lose his whole identity. He kept all that strong. So finally, the time actually comes. Yosef's given all this power, and now it's time to actually get to work. 7 years comes, and people in Egypt are like prospering. It's like money is coming in, wealth, the animals are having children, there's good meat, there's good food, agriculture. So everything is doing really well. And what Yosef starts to do is he starts to build storage houses, starts storing things in there. In the same section, in this Aliyah, Chazal say that Yosef had 2 kids. Who was Yosef's 2 kids? Ephraim and Menashe. So each name we know, and by the way, some say that Ephraim and Menashe were kind of like the 12 tribes too. Like they kind of, even though they're Yosef's kids, they kind of got enwrapped as like part of the Shvatim. So obviously they're very important. So much so that we bless our children to say you should be like Ephraim and Menashe. Very important. So the names, each of the names had something specific. So Menashe, one of the reasons why he was called Menashe was because Menashe meant that for God has caused me to forget my hardship. That's what Menashe really means. So in some way, it was like, not that he forgot like all the pains and sufferings, but like things start to make sense for him. Like he until now was in a jail, he could have, things didn't make sense now. Now God is taking him up in, caliber. He's becoming, pretty much second in command. So he says, God is kind of numbing my pain. I'm forgetting my thing. So he names his first child, Menashe. The second child, Ephraim, it's God made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. That's what it really means. This whole idea was that Ephraim, his second son, even though he's like in this land of Egypt, God is giving him kids now. God's giving him a family. God's making him become very wealthy. Now, just one very interesting thought on this area before we move on. Whenever it talks about Yosef having the kids, it refers to, and Yosef had 2 kids, Ephraim and Menashe, and then later on it talks about their mother being this lady named Osnat. And the reason is because you would think that these kids would grow up in a house where their mother was kind of like of Egyptian culture, maybe even worshiping idols. The kids would go in their mom's way. Not only that, remember, Yosef was a slave, he was a Hebrew. So the slave will come in the relationship and like kind of wear the pants in the relationship. She would be the one bossing around. She's the one who's going to decide how the kids are going to be run. And in most houses, actually, that's why all the Shadchan say, and myself included for all the single people in this room, always marry a girl more spiritual and more religious than yourself. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones raising your kids. So however the mother is, that's usually how the kids end up. But even though, they were, the mother was maybe not, from a great place, she grew up in Egypt or she was from Egypt, the kids still ended up being Ephraim and Menashe, such good kids that we on Friday nights bless our own kids, say you should be like Ephraim and Menashe. And what they were really saying is that Yosef set the boundaries. He was in Egypt, he was surrounded by craziness, he was surrounded by very bad values, but at the end of the day, he's like, I'm a Jew, I'm keeping my identity, and my kids will grow up in this house. And so much so that he even affected his wife, that she would, kept all the things that Yosef kept and raised his kids in a good environment. All right, we got another 15, 20 minutes to go, and we're pretty much, we're making progress, almost halfway. All right, so pretty much we talked about these years come, and finally the good years happen, and the good years end, and right away it goes to the 7 years of famine. And it says when the years of famine came, it says the famine began just as Yosef had said. That's very interesting. When the 7 good years came, it doesn't say, and people became very wealthy like Yosef said, because Yosef predicted there will be 7 good years, and he also predicted there will be 7 bad years. But the lesson from this is that when things are going well, everyone takes everything for granted, as we said before. No one's like, and Yosef told us, we're just doing well because we're doing well. We're thriving in business because we're very smart and very successful. But when the toughness came, they're like, now we see all these things that Yosef said, it's true. They didn't understand that. They didn't realize Yosef's genius in the good 7 years, because they're like, oh, like things are just going well because of mine. But when the 7 years of toughness came, that's when people were like, okay, like now we realize this guy Yosef, like what he said is coming true. So finally, like, the people started even seeing more and more how, divine spirit he had. So pretty much these years come and it's extreme. Rashi says that there was no bread anywhere else. People were coming from every single country. People were kind of flocking. It says all the earth came to Egypt. So every single country, you can imagine, all these countries, today we look at Egypt, there's all these surrounding Arab countries all around the world, even places that are way further away. People were coming here because they realized Egypt, for some reason, is doing really well, and they have these storage of foods, while everywhere else in the world, people are starving. So Yosef opens the storehouses, people start bringing gold, silver, start trading it in, he starts selling it, and the whole world starts coming into the thing. And pretty much what happens now is that the brothers, and the story comes that even in Israel, where the brothers were, Yaakov was, the famine hits there too. So now the brothers have to come in the picture. And this is where things kind of get very interesting, very juicy, and we'll jump into that. So the pasuk says, "Vayera Yaakov ki sharer beMitzrayim." Yaakov saw that there was grain in Egypt. So he sees that there's something special going on in Egypt, and some say that he perceived that there was hope coming out of Egypt. Whatever there was, like there was some idea that like something's going on in Egypt, I need to go. He didn't understand that it's his son, what's going on. God kept some of the nevuah for him, but he realized like there's some pull that I need to send my family to. Now, go ahead.
I could be wrong, but I heard that Yaakov had food, but he just didn't.
There we go. That's the next point. I love it. That's exactly where we're going. He branched on that very good idea that we're about to get to. I love us. Okay, here we go. The next idea is so practical for us. It's all about Ayin Hara. So Chazal say actually that God, even though everyone around Yaakov and the brothers were like really running out of food, somehow Yaakov and his kids still had food. But this is what he says. Yaakov tells his kids, Lama titrotzu. Why do you appear to one another? And they say that titrotzu really means is like, why are you guys trying to stand out? What does that mean? He's saying everybody's freaking out. People are like, we're running out of food, and if we just sit here and say, oh, look, we're just eating our food, we're doing okay, this person is suffering, this person's in a famine, and our family will stand out. Number one, people are going to accuse us, maybe we're doing something shady, and they're going to hate us. Like anti-Semitism always, when some people do good and some people don't, people hate that. And number two, he's like, this is Ayin Hara. We're rich, we're doing well, we stand out, and everybody doesn't. That's bad. Now this is where I want to segue for 2 minutes and clarify for all the people watching at home and everyone here what Ayin Hara actually is, because we're going to see this right now in the next 2 minutes, 3 minutes, all the next person we're going to get to have a lot to do with Ayin Hara. And we learned a lot of Ayin Hara from here. So people think Ayin Hara is, I buy a car, somebody looks at it, and now I get in a car accident. That's not what Ayin Hara is. Ayin Hara really is that when you have something and you stand out and it's flaunted, and somebody else is hurt, other people near you have to be hurt, God opens a judgment on your case. Do you deserve this or do you not deserve this? And we never want God to judge us. Anytime God judges us, it's dangerous. Because at the end of the day, maybe I'm not worthy of having this right now. Maybe 5 years ago, I was determined to, have this certain amount of wealth. Now God's going to judge me. I did some sins and I'm not worthy of this, and God will take it away from me. So let me give an example. Someone lives in an area where everyone's poor, and he builds a crazy mansion. Every day people drive by and they're like, I can barely pay my rent. I live in a small broken down apartment. This guy built a massive mansion in our house. They feel this pain. This guy flaunted his wealth. God opens up a judgment on him and says, do you deserve it or not? Now let's just say a person goes and buys a Lexus, and everybody driving normal cars. And Chazal say that's not Ayin Hara. Because it's not like you're purposely trying to flaunt. Now if you got a red Maserati and drove it down and people are like looking at you and it's bad attention and people are actually getting hurt. Or I'll give you another very extreme example. Bunch of friends, none of them, all of them are having kids so easily. And there's one friend, unfortunately, she can't get pregnant. And this one friend, the whole time she's with this friend who can't get pregnant, just talks about her children. Oh, I love my children. I love spending time with them. So she should be more sensitive. She should be more understanding that by me talking about my kids with my friend who doesn't have kids and hasn't had the ability to, who's desperate to have kids, I'm causing her pain. So by doing that, Hashem will open the case. So this whole idea is of not standing out, of not going up. That's where Ayin Hara comes in. So how does that connect? So Yaakov is saying, everyone's looking at us. They're saying, oh, we're chilling, we're on relaxed mode while everyone's panicking. Doesn't look good. Number one. Number two, another thing that we see from Ayin Hara here is that when Yosef now tells his brothers to go, tells his sons to go, what does he say? He says, I want you guys all, Raz, you know this? I want you guys all to go through 10 different gates. I don't want you guys to all travel together. So, why? He's so scared that something's gonna happen to his kid. They're traveling from Israel to Egypt. Not an easy place. There's dangers on the road. Let them all be together to protect themselves. But Yaakov is nervous. 10 good-looking, good people from good family, 10 sons. They're gonna be like, who's the father? This is Ayin Hara. So he tells them, don't walk together. People are going to look at you, and there could be Ayin Hara. So when they actually enter Egypt, they all go through 10 different gates. It's a phenomenal, crazy idea. By the way, Yosef also, people say that Yosef was Ale Ayin. This is also very deep, because in last week's Parsha, Yosef controlled his eyes. Remember, whenever he was in the house with Esht Potiphar, she comes in, she wants to sleep with the wife of Potiphar, wants to sleep with Yosef, they're completely alone, and Yosef controls his eyes, he controls his Yetzer Hara. Chazal say that Yosef is Ale Ayin, which means that people who are descendants of Yosef, or people who are careful with Shmirat Einayim and watch, Ayin Hara can affect them. Very deep, but there's a lot of Ayin Hara references in this section regarding Yaakov, Yosef, the brothers, and this thing. So the pasuk, to move on, it says, and the brothers redu. It doesn't say they went to Egypt, and vayelech leMitzrayim. It says vayirdu leMitzrayim. What does yored mean? What's the word yored mean? To go down. Go down. So we know no word in that. It's so beautiful how deep our Torah is. Yored means to go down. This was their going down. Remember, everything, when now the Jews go to Egypt, for 210 years, we're stuck there. This was the first time. This was the first going to Egypt. This was the beginning of the exile. All the craziness, the Jews building the pyramids, the slaves, Pesach, we sit down together, we say, Hashem, you freed us. This is the beginning of the 210 years that the Jewish people have to go through all this craziness. So the pasuk says, and they do. And by the way, look how beautiful this is. The word yored, literally, of them going, of redu, of that they went down, of redu, reish daled, of those words. What's the gematria of it? 210. The Jews were in Egypt for how long? 210 years. Can't make this stuff up. The Torah is beautiful, it's deep, no word is random, but the Jews were in Egypt for 210 years, and the pasuk that says they went to Egypt is Gematria 210. So, now Yaakov says, okay, you guys gotta go, Vayirdu, and we know the story. He sends 10 of his kids. We know he had 12 Shavatim. Obviously, Yosef he can't send, because Yosef's the one in Egypt right now running the show. And Binyamin, he keeps. Why does he keep Binyamin? Binyamin is the only other kid from his beloved wife, Rachel. So he says, I already lost one kid from Rachel, Yosef. He thinks, as far as Yaakov knows, Yosef is dead. I'm not losing another kid from. So he says, I want you to keep. And by the way, he still does that favoritism. You know, I remember how in last week's Parasha he favored Yosef and the brothers got jealous. It's pasuk shows he still has a certain love and connection to Rachel's kids, Yosef and Binyamin. So he says, I'm going to keep Binyamin here. You brothers go down. The brothers go, and finally they get to Egypt, and they go to the storehouses looking for food, and they bow down to Yosef. So remember last week's parsha, the dream that Yosef has. He tells the brothers, "I have a dream that pretty much you guys are going to be bowing down to me," and the brothers get upset. This is literally the beginning of the fulfillment of exactly what he said happening. They don't even know. Yosef sees them. He notices them. He realizes them. Keeps his mouth shut, doesn't say anything, but he realizes the prophecy is coming in. And it's very interesting that when the brothers came in, by the way, they were they knew that Yaakov thinks Yosef is dead, but they knew that that Yosef was sold to Egypt. So now that we're going to get food, let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's also capture our brother, who's probably a slave somewhere here. Let's capture Yosef and bring him back. They felt a lot of guilt of what they did, selling him to Egypt. So the brothers go to they go to the marketplace, and they think he's like a slave in some marketplace in some hood somewhere. So they're looking all around, and that's why also Yosef, we're going to see in a second, he accuses them of being spies. So Yosef sees them, they bow down to Yosef, and Yosef says, "You guys are all spies." And Yosef knows that they're not spies, but the reason he can justify it is, you guys came in here a few days ago. What took you guys so long to get to my palace to ask for food? What were you guys doing in my city? But what were they doing? They were looking for Yosef. So it's funny. They were looking for him, not knowing that the person they're looking for is standing right in front of them. So Yosef accused them, "You are spies." and he puts them in jail for 3 days. And and pretty much the whole idea, this is very intense. So, you think about it. He's putting his own brothers in jail. He's accusing his own brothers. Chazal jump on this question too. They're like, Yosef's not an evil person. Like, why would he do this? And we're going to see in the next few minutes, everything that Yosef is doing is not, I want to get back at my brothers, I want to do revenge. He's testing his brothers in ways that we'll understand in a few moments. He wants them to really understand and like things to come out. He doesn't want to just be like, hey, I'm Yosef, like, let's hug and kiss. He wants to understand where do these brothers stand? I haven't seen them for 12 years or so. Have they done teshuvah? What are they doing? Where are they holding? And also, he doesn't see Binyamin. So what does he do? Long story short, he says you're a spy, sends them to jail. And the pasuk even says that Yosef cries. Like, he looks at the brothers, he sees what's going on, he cries twice. This is the first time he cries. So like, he looks away, he cries, he gets emotional, and like that matters, because if Yosef was really trying to like do revenge, like, why would he go and turn his face and cry and get all emotional? He would just be like, like, I hate you guys. This is my revenge, like, I'm throwing you guys in jail. He didn't. He was so emotional. He was like, let me put them in jail and let's kind of work things out one by one. So some people say it was Mida Keneged Mida. Why? Because the brothers judged him falsely. They said, oh, look, he's here to like hurt us. He's here to, and they threw him in the pit. So now, Mida Keneged Mida, measure for measure. Now, Yosef is in a position where he's judging the brothers. He's saying, you guys were spies, and the whole spiel. What do the brothers say? They say, listen, we're just servants of the sons of Israel, referring to Yaakov. We are honest men, we're not spies. And it's very interesting that they refer to them as the sons of Yaakov. One of the ways they're trying to say, look, we're good people, is because we're Jews. Meaning, in those days, even the Jewish people had a good identity. Like, we're not here to be spies. We're not here to do anything shady. We're the sons of Yaakov. Yaakov had an amazing reputation. Everybody apparently knew about Yaakov some way or the other. Listen, we're sons of Yaakov. Like, you could look into our heritage. You could look into our identity. Like, we come from a good, solid family. And Yosef, he softens up. He sees these brothers are kind of like very thing, and he says, don't worry. Like, he says, et Elokim et Ira. I fear God. What he's really trying to say to them, he's saying, like, I'm not trying to be cruel to you guys. At the end of the day, you guys, I'm not trying to harm you guys, but let's make a plan. I fear God. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you guys, but I want you guys, one of you guys stay as a hostage and go back and bring your other brother Binyamin. Why are one of you guys missing? Where is the other brother that you guys talk about? If you guys are really that confident that you guys are not spies, then let me see what you guys are actually saying, that, we're 12 brothers, one of them died, and the other one is is with our father in Israel, and we didn't bring him down. Go bring him, because then I'll know your story is legit, and it'll be less of and maybe he really didn't know. He didn't know what's up with the Binyamin. He doesn't know if the brothers are lying. So, and in some way it was like a shock that he's saying, I fear God. They're like, this guy's ahead of Egypt and he's bringing God's name. Kind of was a little bit suspicious. So pretty much Yosef turns away. We know the whole story. He cries. He pretty much, what he does is he tells all the brothers, you guys go, and he keeps Shimon. He keeps Shimon and he says, I'm going to keep you hostage. The rest of the brothers, you guys go. You guys bring back your brother Binyamin. And so he does something very interesting. He gives them a lot of food. He says, I know you guys came for the food. Take all this food back to your father, to your house. And then when they're not looking, he puts the money that they came to pay for the food, he puts it back inside of their stuff, and he sends them out. Why? To now come and be able to accuse them and say, oh, you guys cheated me. You guys took pretty much all the food, and you guys didn't pay with it. You guys took the money back. So pretty much they go back to Yaakov. They go back to Yaakov, their father. They repeat the whole story. Dad, this is what happened. We went there. They kept pretty much Shimon. Please give us Binyamin, let us take us. And his father says, I lost one of my kids, Yosef. Shimon is now held hostage. You think I'm going to give you Binyamin? No way. I'm not doing this. Back and forth. He fights. He says, no, I'm not going to do it. He gets upset at the brothers. Why'd you even tell them there was another son, Binyamin? And the brothers kind of defend themselves. What do you mean? No, we had to. So the whole crazy thing happens. And what happens is, after the famine gets really bad in in Israel, they realize they have no choice. Until now, as Ra said himself, Yaakov even himself, they had food, but things get really bad. and they realize they have no choice. Yehuda gets up and says, Dad, it's on me. If anything happens to Binyamin, you can take my 2 sons as, do whatever you want to them. You can take them as, you can kill them if I don't bring back Binyamin. Meaning he was so confident, so sure that he's going to bring Binyamin, he needed to promise his father. And his father says, what are you talking about? Like, these are my grandkids. Like, you don't have to make me that promise, but at the end of the day, take Binyamin, do what you got to do, but you got to bring him back. So finally, the moment comes. The brothers go back to the palace. And kind of just wrapping it up in the next 2 minutes that we have. The brothers go back, and they pretty much quickly come, and Yosef's people quickly see. They say at noon, Yosef will meet you guys. We'll have a meal with you guys. So the brothers are, kind of nervous, like, a meal with the king. Like, why is this all necessary? He for sure wants to accuse us. Maybe he thinks that the money that we didn't pay for the food, he's going to kill us. He's going to throw us to jail. They're freaked out. They're nervous. They're anxious. And what happens is that Yosef comes in. He puts them all. He lines them all up one by one, and he starts to really look. He lines them up from youngest to eldest. He looks at Binyamin, his younger brother, and Chazal say this is the second time he started to cry. He finally sees his younger brother, and one of the reasons is when he left, Binyamin was much younger, much smaller. Now he kind of got older, and he sees his mother Rachel's traits within Binyamin, and just the whole sense kind of got him very emotional. So much so that he turns his face, he cries, he weeps. And by the way, all the brothers are there now, and they bow down again. Chazal say this is actually where the dream actually comes true, because in the dream that Yosef had in last week's Parasha, it was he's standing there and all 11 brothers are bowing down to him. So previously Binyamin wasn't there. Now Binyamin is there. Now they all bow down together. And finally that prophecy is pretty much fulfilled. So that all happens, and I just want to kind of wrap up. Yosef prepares this whole feast. They all sit down. They all eat. They all talk, and there's a lot of fear in the house. And pretty much what happens is that Yosef says, okay, you guys go. I don't want you guys. I don't everything's fine. Take your stuff, take Binyamin, and go. But what does he do? He has his special goblet, whatever it was, a special ball thing that gave him powers. And he tells his son, actually Menashe, that whenever these people are leaving, put it in the stuff of Binyamin. So he pretty much sets up his own brothers. And they all say goodbye. They're like, we're finally free. We can get out of here. We take our stuff. We take Shimon back. We take Binyamin. Let's go back to dad. We're finally free. And they start all right, we made it through. Let's go. They start going. And then all of a sudden they look back and they see, oh gosh, Yosef's people are chasing them, and they start to freak out. And they say, and Menashe and the people that are with him say, how dare you that you guys would steal the king's goblet? You guys would take something after everything that you guys went through. You guys, we gave you all this stuff. We did. And they're like, they get up and Shimon says, what are you talking about? We would never do such a thing. If there's anybody who did such a thing, you can take them, you can kill them, you can take them as a slave, you can do whatever you want. You can take all of us as slaves. And the people say, no. Only the person who we find the goblet with, they will take as a slave. So they go through everyone, from eldest, they go through Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehudas, they go through every single person's pretty much stuff, and they don't find the goblet. Finally, the youngest brother, Binyamin, they go through his stuff, and there it is. The goblet is right there. So you can imagine the feeling the brothers have. Yehuda in the previous section that we just read, he literally told his father, I'm not going to cause you more suffering. We already threw Yosef, in the pit. We did all these things. You think he's dead. We caused you 21, 22 years of misery. You've been having all this anguish. We won't cause you this. We won't cause you this trauma. Trust me. We won't do that to you anymore. And now all of a sudden, that trauma is occurring again. Now all of a sudden, they say, Binyamin, we're going to take him. And they say, no, we're not going to take you guys all slave. Just the one who we find it with. And they find it in Binyamin's. And they say, God, we know this is all from you. This is because we threw our brother Yosef in the pit many years ago. We know that we threw him in the pit. You're upset at us. You're punishing us for that. So they felt this guilt. They felt like God is punishing them for the sins they did 20 or 12, 13 years ago. And Chazal say that, I'll end with this. What was the whole point? Yosef is that evil. His brother Binyamin that he just cried about. and now all of a sudden he loves him so much he's going to come and try to cause more misery to his own father, to all this thing. But what he was really saying is he wanted to still see one more thing. Remember what was the whole story? The whole story about him was that the brothers were jealous of the favorite. Now Binyamin is the favorite of Yaakov. Number one. Number two, he's the only child of Rachel. Maybe the brothers have something against Rachel's kids. And the brothers never stood up for him. So he wants to see, are they really going to stand up? Because at the end of the day, we know, we're going to read next week's Parsha, we're going to begin, that he never ends up, keeping Binyamin as a slave. Once he sees that they're legit and they're fighting to get Binyamin back, they're like, okay, the brothers have changed. They're not the same brothers of 12 years ago, that they were stubborn, that they, had animosity towards each other. They're united. They have each other's back. They're saying, no, don't take Binyamin. Take me as a slave. No, leave Binyamin alone. I'll be the one to sacrifice. If they're at that level, then they're good. Next week we're going to go through it, and it's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. More about the brothers and the revelation of Yosef to his brothers. Have a great Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.